The final Black Clover saga has begun with a new Black Clover chapter. There's a lot to talk about. And oh boy, once again, many of our predictions have come true. The new Timeskip is here.
Another one.
And Julius is still the Wizard King.
Another one.
Because he managed to hide his identity by simply making the nation disappear.
Another one.
However, he occasionally leaves the Clover Kingdom to carry out his plan, while people think he's just doing his usual thing, that is, transforming and traveling around looking for amazing magic.
Another one.
But what Lucius is really doing is using Lucifer's heart and connection with the underworld for some kind of ritual.
And another one.
It appears that Lucius can enter the underworld in some way because, according to the leaks, he's in the 7th layer. But to be fair, this is not entirely clear. There may be an error in the translation of the leak. We will explain why. Also, Asta has finally grown up with the whole Sister Lily situation.
And another one.
And then Lucius suddenly confronts Asta directly as Lucius without pretending to be Julius.
And another one.
Holy, that's a lot of predictions come true. We have a lot of very interesting topics for today. If you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video. Let's go! The title of the chapter is the final declaration and most likely refers to the last panel of this chapter when Lucius appears and confronts him with reality. But more on that in a moment. It was said that the time skip lasted a year and 3 months. That's a pretty unusual number when you think about it. Why didn't Tabata just decide on a full year or 2 years or just a year and 6 months? Something more common. Of course, that might make it seem a bit more realistic. But maybe the exact time that has passed is actually important, and for that I need to analyze everything very carefully. That might take some time to understand the meaning of 1 year and 3 months. The chapter apparently starts in the underworld, more precisely in the 7th level. From the leaks it's not entirely clear whether it's before or after the time skip, because it was said that the next scene takes place after the time skip. Although Lucius is already wearing the Spade Kingdom clothes here and the ritual is already underway. So maybe it's during the time skip rather than before. Also, I have some problems with the idea that this scene actually takes place in the underworld. I will explain everything. First, let's just assume that the leaked translation is correct and Lucius is actually in the underworld. In fact, we suspected that Lucius might have the ability to communicate with the underworld and possibly even somehow enter the underworld using time magic. Because it was said that Astaroth managed to escape the underworld, so most likely Astaroth can get back into the underworld as well. So if Lucius has gained control of Astaroth's magic, it's only natural to believe that Lucius also has that ability to enter the underworld, which now seems to be confirmed based on the leaks. Furthermore, his communication with Adramelech was a strong indication of this idea, as there was no way they could communicate unless Lucius has somehow bypassed the gates. Anyway, Lucifer is the same old with a gigantic superiority complex. He hasn't changed a bit, it's actually hilarious. He's just several pieces of meat scattered on the floor, as if he were a goat's head used for a satanic ritual. And yet he still mumbles that he has the strongest magic and is such a great king of the underworld. What must happen for him to finally stop talking? Lucius seems calm and cool. He answers him that this may be the case, but in this world, humans are the ones who possesses the strongest magic. And that's what has me confused. This sentence only makes sense if they were in the human world. And Lucius would have agreed that Lucifer has the greatest devil magic and is the strongest in the underworld, but in the world of the living, which Lucius referred to as this world. He says that humans are the superior ones. So we have two possibilities here. Either Lucius is actually in the 7th layer of the underworld, but then I wonder why Beelzebub and all the other high-ranking devils who live in this layer don't get involved. That is the layer filled with devils like Zagret. So did they all betray Lucifer and now just watch Lucius do his thing even though they all see how disrespectfully he talks about devils? Or is Lucius actually in the human world and the ritual just has something to do with the 7th layer of the underworld? Maybe he's trying to open the gates for some reason. The fact that Lucifer's horns are healed seems to speak to the fact that it could be his real body, or rather the remaining 50% of the manifestation that may have still been in the 7th layer of the underworld. We have seen that Lucifer was not able to regenerate his horns when Asta cut them off with anti-magic, but now they are clearly fine. Of course, it could also mean that Lucius somehow put him together so that he could be used for the ritual, so we should keep this in mind. Also, we can see that a clock is the basis of the ritual place, which indicates time magic, so whatever whatever Lucius is doing has something to do with time magic, which could be the reason why his sun-shaped mark on his forehead started to disappear, because it could be filled with time magic just as Julius' star once was, if this is not a mistake. But I doubt Tabata just forgot to finish the sun. The leaks say that Lucius then took the heart of Lucifero again. This could be because he obviously can't allow the heart to stay with Lucifero, so every time Lucius disappeared from Clover Kingdom, he probably takes the heart and uses it for the ritual with Lucifero using his time magic. And then he takes it away again, over and over again, all the time during the time skip. He was never gone long enough to arouse suspicion. The reason for taking the heart could be that Lucifero cannot live without his heart, so he cannot escape or interfere with devils of lower rank, and whatever else he can do while he's alive. Maybe he can even regenerate if he has enough time. And since it is unlikely that the ritual will continue without Lucifero, Lucius can only slowly approach his goal by disappearing from Clover Kingdom from time to time, to continue the ritual step by step without arousing suspicion. Then the scene cuts to after the time skip, suggesting that what just happened before the time skip or during the time skip, but let's see what the official translation will say. There's a ceremony where Asta is promoted to Senior Magic Knight. We are told that Yunus already Grand Magic Knight, and thus he has fulfilled the requirement to become a captain, or start his own squad and even to become Wizard King. That's crazy. But Yunus is on a mission right now, so he's not part of the ceremony. Of course, this could be very important. Either the mission Yunus is on is important to the story, or it is important that Yunus is not in the Clover Kingdom right now for some reason. If the mission is important, it could be something about Spade Kingdom, for example. There was no mention of who he is doing the mission for. After all, Yunus the prince and actually the king of Spade Kingdom. He has responsibilities and he knows it. It is likely that he is working for both kingdoms now. Most likely more for the Clover Kingdom. But if the mission itself is not important, then it must be important that Yunus is not in the Clover Kingdom, which will then mean that it is most likely because of the last page when Lucius confronted Asta. But anyway, back to the ceremony with my partner continuing this video. Have fun.
Asta believes that the next Wizard King will be Fugelion, Nozel, or Meriliona. The reason he didn't mention Yami is not because he doesn't believe in Yami, but because he knows Yami. And everyone who knows Yami knows that he doesn't want to be the Wizard King in the first place. Nozel says that all of that is on hold now. He probably meant the whole Wizard King situation. This suggests that something is indeed happening at the moment to determine the next Wizard King or Queen, just as we suspected in our last video. Fugelion tells Asta that there are still people who distrust his devil power.
No! No! No!
But Asta's merit will be recognized.
Yes! 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 Yes!
This is mainly because the devil's trial is on hold due to the disappearance of Damnatio, and this trial shapes the opinion of society. The reason for Damnatio's disappearance, of course, has something to do with Lucius, who is not currently in the Clover Kingdom. People start talking that he is always out somewhere in disguise. The interesting thing is that this is very similar situation with Julius, but this time we understand the meaning much better. We see the perspective of the Clover Kingdom and how they view the situation with Julius. They think that Julius is just acting like he always does. So if as always means that Lucius took over Julius, then every time Julius was gone, as always, Lucius took over and did something to fulfill his plan. Consider, for example, the attack on the Capitol. We theorized that Gludre might be innocent. This means that the person who could actually be responsible for the barrier not working was none other than Lucius when Julius suddenly disappeared. This fits with the fact that all Magic Knights lost communication between each other, and communication was only restored after Julius activated communication between him and Marx, suggesting that Julius not only blocked communication between him and Marx, but for everyone in the entire Clover Kingdom. Maybe it really was Lucius all along. So keep in mind that every time Julius disappeared, it could have been Lucius. Anyway, at the end of the chapter, Asta has decided to propose to Sister Lily one last time, but she refuses as usual. Asta finally accepts her decision and says that he understands. Asta has become very mature, just like Noel has now become a ripe fruit that can be picked. Yes, people, Noel is 18 years old, and you know what that means.
Give your meat a good old rub. Yeah, boy.
By the way, Asta even seems to have grown a little bit and is now as tall as Sister Lily. But then, Lucius Zogratis suddenly appears and congratulates him. He says that Asta has come a long way, but that this is his end. Which of course doesn't automatically mean that Lucius has come to kill Asta. It could also simply mean that Lucius is making fun of Asta for becoming a senior magic knight and not the wizard king, and says that this is his limit. Lucius really showed up in the middle of the capital of the Clover Kingdom and congratulated Asta on never reaching his goal. This man is on a whole other level of disrespect.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
As mentioned earlier, the title of the chapter, The Final Declaration, could refer to what Lucius will say to Asta. The title alone suggests that this might not be a fight to death. It is possible that Lucius and Asta will have a small fight to show us readers, as well as Asta, how big the power difference is between him and Lucius. This is important for us to understand where the current power level is after the time skip. Also, during the fight, we may even be able to see what magic ability Lucius has aside from his time magic, which comes from Astaroth. And if they are really going to have a small fight, then if Lucius uses time magic, Asta will probably understand that Lucius could be Julius. It is also quite possible that Asta would read Lucius's key and thus realize that it is Julius, even if Lucius does not reveal anything. Maybe he can even sense two people if Lucius and Julius are not the same person and are not in the same situation as Bathory and William. There are many ways this could play out. Another intriguing thought is that Sister Lily may finally play an important role in the story. We have always seen her on the covers of chapters and even volumes alongside elves. There has always been some sort of mystery around her. Seeing Sister Lily and Asta confronted by the main villain, there is certainly a chance that something will be revealed about her, if there is anything to be revealed at all. Maybe she is really just a nun. Anyway, if Lucius is really just making a declaration, then he obviously has no intention of killing Asta, which means there must be a reason. Why did he come to Asta in the first place? Of course, it could be that Lucius has completed the ritual, and so from now on, he doesn't care if the people of the Clover Kingdom know that he is Julius Novachrono. But that doesn't answer the question of why he specifically sought out Asta, and why he returned to the Clover Kingdom at all. Now that Lucius already has Lucifero's devil heart, Asta shouldn't be important. However, that is only the case if his plan is completely fulfilled. But if Lucius still needs Asta for the final step of his goal, then it makes sense why he hid his identity and stayed in the Clover Kingdom all this time. I'm not saying he's going to use Asta now, but the reason is certainly that Asta is more important to Lucius's goal than anyone else in the Clover Kingdom. It might have something to do with Julius's prophecy. Either Asta dies, or the Clover Kingdom is destroyed, or both. This suggests that Asta may indeed still be a part of Lucius's plan, and that Lucius is just trying to initiate the final step. Some people say that Julius's prophecy has already come true because Asta died and Lucius simply reverts time to get the best result. However, we should not mix theories with facts. Even if our theory with the Spade Kingdom clock is correct and Lucius somehow manipulated events, the prophecy still didn't come true. If Asta survived, then the Clover Kingdom must have been destroyed. However, the Clover Kingdom is doing well, so the prophecy has not been yet fulfilled. So, Asta could die, and that could be a part of Lucius's final move, and that's definitely something to keep in mind. Whatever happens after this conversation with Asta, Lucius is probably expecting some sort of reaction from the Clover Kingdom that will trigger certain events that will favor Lucius's plan. Something that must happen for Lucius's goal to be achieved. Something that may even lead to Julius's prophecy. It could be a declaration of war, or it could be Lucius revealing himself as Julius to Asta. The possibilities are endless. But as I said, the important thing is not what it is, but why Lucius confronts Asta. What do you guys think of this new Black Clover chapter? Let us know in the comments below. That's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.